Welcome to today's episode. Today's guest is Michael LaVista. Mike is the author of Superpowered, 7 Leadership Superpowers Technology Executives Can Use to Grow a More Engaged, Tech-Driven, and Profitable Organization, a practical playbook for leaders who want to drive change without getting lost in jargon. He's also the host of The Digital Transformist, a podcast featuring real conversations with CEOs who have led legacy businesses through meaningful tech-driven change. And outside of work, Mike is a dedicated husband and dad to 2 football-playing sons, an avid guitar player, a casual golfer, and a passionate home cook known for his slow-simmered Italian sauces. So, Mike, welcome.
Wow, I mean, that was honestly the best read I've ever heard of that ever. So I'm gonna put that on my ringtone or whatever. That's fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, that's too much. Thank you. And we at Strativa AI help businesses use AI to streamline workflows, delight customers, and grow revenue faster without adding more staff. So if you're interested in a free business growth consultation, just drop the word growth in the comments below. So, Mike, please share some about the latest project that you're working on these days.
It's funny. So with that intro, I wrote the book pre sort of LLM AI boom.
Okay.
So we are in similar-ish spaces. So I come from software development. So our company's been in software consulting for a long time. And so we've added on artificial intelligence and, kind of applying AIs to workflows. And to your point, I love your intro about what you guys are doing. I think the most interesting things we're doing are kind of combating what I see as or maybe it's not conventionalism anymore, but a lot of people in the news were talking a lot about like such and such job is going away because of AI. And we haven't seen that happen yet. I don't know if how possible it is anytime in the near future, but automating something that is sort of like, repetitive or, error prone. I think we've been focusing a lot on error prone or time consuming has been an area of interest. And honestly, I'd say in the last year, doing the math in my head, a huge percentage, it might be close to a third to a half the projects we've worked on have been around the idea that sales departments are slow to do custom estimates. So if you're in a business where part of what you do is go to a client, go to a job site, go to something, and some salesperson / estimator / technical expert SME group of people have to get together to talk about, okay, what did we see? What's the solution? How much will it cost to do that?
Yeah.
That process for a lot of organizations takes a long time. And I was surprised to see how effective AI and automation could be in that space, and especially across different industries. So for example, in one case, we were able to take a process for quoting like a construction oriented kind of job where it was taking up to like 4 or 5 weeks to do an estimate because part of it involved getting parts we didn't know about, getting shipping.
What sort of scale of construction job are we talking about for a little context?
That's a great question. So this would be maybe the construction job is like a skyscraper, like $100 million project.
Got it.
And so there are a lot of things involved in how to put that together. And you could see, just like thinking about all the different logistical elements of that, how draining that could be for a person. And I think like one of the things AI can help combat is that writer's block blank page scenario of like, oh my God, I got to do these estimates. And so many people we talk to, salespeople are up till like 8 or 9 at night doing estimates every night. And so the idea of like bringing like, well, what if this thing could just scoop your notes into, an executive summary and get pretty close on the products and time and all that kind of stuff. And it'll never be right on version 1, but it's gotten you through the writer's block. And now you're an editor, not a writer. And that's happened in now like 5 or 6 client situations. I think it's really interesting. That's a place I think like sales quoting is like a really big opportunity for AI.
Wow, fantastic. And so is that something that you've put together each time kind of unique for those, or are you guys developing this into a bit of a product that you're able to replicate across the board?
We're trying. I think we're trying to do the latter. So far, each of the cases were similar enough at the core, but then had different tendrils and went into different directions and things we had to do custom. But I think the idea of a product is probably a pretty good idea. But sometimes even the consulting around like what's your process for sales helps as well.
Sure. Yeah, 100%. And then so has your use case there for those ones been working with one individual, or is it something that you're implementing with a whole team?
So we do it with the whole team. And I think One of the most telling, interesting, and tragic or hilarious things that you can do is get a group in a team to talk about what they all believe the process is. And in a couple of different cases, the same thing happened, which is the sales team said, well, here's how we do it. And then within 5 seconds of the person saying, this is how we do it, the other person, like, that's not, what are you talking about? We don't do it that way. And so
Really?
you realize that most companies have kind of ad hoc,
Yeah.
individualized processes for every person in the department. And so there actually is no process if that happens. And then you add on tribal knowledge and someone's like, well, I never do it that way. In fact, I was on a demo the other day, I had a client say, here's how we do the proposal. I click create template. And then you see a new template open up, and then they select all, and I delete all that, and I paste my thing in. I'm like, what do we create the template for? So,
Right.
like, you never know until you see it in person. So I feel like a lot of our work has swum a little bit more upstream to say, well, let's look at your process first, because we don't want to digitize either that one person's process, because no one else uses that,
Yeah.
or digitize a broken process. And I feel like, especially in sales, a lot of individual huge, great contributors have valuable things to add. They just don't know yet. And they're kind of like they're on their heads, and we need to turn it into a system others can use.
Yeah, I see. And so as the team is using it, is it essentially like one agent that you've put together for them that they all interact with? Or what's the nuts and bolts that
Great
you are
question.
interacting
So,
with?
let's see. So in one case, it was like build a quote from products that are in the system, and then it can kind of create a narrative and get, current pricing, market pricing, make recommendations about that, kind of build it. But the thought process is still in their heads. And in another case, they had like a lot of big companies are run on spreadsheets. And
Yeah.
in the spreadsheet company, they're able to create the spreadsheet pretty effectively, but then it's just super tedious to pull it over into like a contract proposal format. And that's actually a little more kind of one-to-one, but with the added layer of, well, let's check pricing, let's check material, let's check availability, let's check labor, all those kind of things along the way that just require, it's the difference between if an active salesperson, is doing 5 quotes a day, they could really do 20 if we empowered them with the system. And
Mhm.
we're not trying to replace jobs here, but that would let them grow without adding headcount, which I think I heard you say too. That's kind of a goal.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, if that could be mapped and then they're just doing some inputs along the way
Sure.
so that the tedious stuff gets stripped out, then absolutely. I mean, and that getting them to that point is kind of what I see as the opportunity for people to use AI, where that's going to unlock a certain amount of time for them. And so it's like, what do they do with that time? Because they're more efficient, it's like, what do they get to do? So do they get to put it back into their company, right? With something that's more meaningful work or another project or something, but all the while kind of having that perspective of like, I gained this time because of this, and being like thankful for that, and then able to have that much more renewed energy and loyalty or what have you to their company or to their work. Or it's like, hey, they actually finished their work at whatever, 3 p.m. that day, and they
Sure.
get to go home and spend time with their family or something like
Yeah.
that, right? And so it's like truly appreciating the fact that AI has made their life more efficient. And like you
Uh-huh.
said, it's not replacing something, but it's giving them opportunity to go deeper, faster in their job so that they can then do X, Y, or Z.
Absolutely. I love that. And another one is I feel like, in sales, time kills all deals. You've heard
Oh, yeah.
that quote. And so, if you're able to get back to a customer like same day as opposed to 4 weeks, compare to the competitor, don't you think you win that job? So it's just
100%.
like,
Yeah, the whole
there's just
speed to lead
yeah.
thing.
So there's a number of things I think you can do to just make you better at what you're doing already.
Right, right. And then, so do you have certain sectors that you work with, or is it kind of across the board?
No, we've been focusing on what I'll call generally like industrial, so manufacturing or, even distribution or construction, that kind of thing, where I think our go-to-market proposal is something like it's not an industry that's tech forward. It's unusual
Mm,
to have really more than one like really sophisticated technology person in a company like that. And so like if you're listening and you own a $100 million manufacturer, it wouldn't surprise me that you have like this one guy who's in charge of your whole NetSuite. He is, in fact, I have a customer like this right now in California where it's like his whole job is answering trouble tickets from 7 a.m. to noon. And that thing he's supposed to do yesterday, now he can start maybe over lunch, but now more tickets coming at one. And it's just a hamster on a wheel. He never catches up, and they have one person.
100%.
And I can think of 20 companies like that right now on top of my
Yeah.
head. And so like, this is an opportunity to maybe help that person And so I feel like our proposition is, what if we kind of pull you into, the modern kind of tech stack, allow you to do a little bit more, still with less, frankly, do a better
Hmm.
job. Because I always like the idea of thinking about, everyone's customers, when they're not working with you, they're ordering something off Amazon, they're ordering something off, DoorDash or something. And
Hmm.
everyone's used to, I type in a thing and I get my result. I can track it. I can see it. I can get all that stuff. People have an expectation about how that's supposed to work. And manufacturing is still stuck in, 1996 comparatively.
Interesting. Yeah, it is true. There's a lot of like the brick and mortar kind of 9 to 5, think of like the plumber down the street or something like that, where they are absolutely just kind of like completely in awe of
Yeah.
the possibilities at just these simple workflows and how much it could free their time to, yeah, like get that stuff done, to go
Right.
out to like quote another job or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Because like you said, like so much of just the society that we live in today expects answers and responses so quickly that those of us that may even be working very hard on delivering XYZ for that client, it's like if we're not at least communicating to them like, hey, we're working on it,
Yeah.
then they're living just in a black hole. And so if the people that are out there are able to utilize tech so that they're able to really effectively do their job that much faster and then get
Yeah.
it out, like they're going to be the ones that are like wowed, their customers are going to be completely wowed, and that leads to more projects either with them or referrals or what have you.
Right. Exactly. And I think also embedded in that idea you just had is that not only do people expect it, but they know it's possible. So if your response to
Right.
them is like, I need to get back to you by the end of the week, you're like, that doesn't make any sense. You should be able to click, 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 get something, in your system and tell me what it is. How do you not know this? Right. Or like,
Yeah.
it occurred to me the other day, I was trying to return something at, I want to say it was a Bloomingdale's, right?
Okay.
And I bought the thing on Bloomingdale's online and I brought it into a store and they go, oh, that's a different system. We can't return that here. That's not our, I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense at all.
I know,
And it's
right?
because they haven't gone to the trouble of the next step of connecting those two systems. And that you and I
Yeah.
know that wouldn't be a big project and it probably save people a lot of headaches. And we know it's possible as consumers. Like, of course, you know how to look this up, but they can't.
Right.
And it's crazy to us. And so
Yeah,
that's
it's
where
not
I
in
feel
this
like, yeah,
system.
right. Yeah.
Right, right. And so how have you helped organizations overcome those organizational barriers where like maybe it's an industry that's a little bit, just not as tech forward, I guess we could
Yeah.
say, right? And so how do you address those situations? How do you help those stakeholders overcome that perceived barrier that they have?
Well, so at the risk of plugging the book a little bit, I think one of the things that we did super poorly for a long time was to just be as technologists. Hey, here it is! Ta-da! This is great. Everyone use it. And we forgot that really that change management is incredibly, incredibly important, and that typically people don't want to change. And this is a
Yep.
new thing that is potentially better. I don't know about you. We hear a lot of fear around AI, both what it's going to do to my job. Well, I don't know how to use it. People are afraid they're going to break something. And so in the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, we have like a new offering as part of what we deliver, which is a change management product, so that we can identify what the barriers to change are, how we'll overcome them, how we make sure people know what's in it for them, how it's not a threat, all these kinds of things, how to pilot things. There's like a whole psychological part of it. And the technology ends up being, in a way, the most straightforward lift. It's like, okay, there's difficulties and APIs you have to figure out and all this different stuff. But the hard part really is, can we get these 80 salespeople on board with the idea that this is the better way to do it?
Mm.
And for sure, top down, shut up everyone, this is how we're doing it, means you're going to get resistance. You're going to get a shadow Excel
Yeah.
system. People are going to quit. Like, that's not how you do it. So change management really is the key. And we were bad at it for a long time. And now it's like a core lead, that's something we would lead with.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how that's kind of like incorporating them in the process and asking how things may be relevant to them,
Yeah.
so that it's not just this, like shove it down your throat sort of
Yeah.
approach, which is just inherently
never
going
works.
to have that resistance to change. What are some mistakes that you've seen companies make when they do try to modernize or adapt AI?
So one of the things I see, I've seen in software for a really long time, is both. This is kind of like two sides of a coin. Both trying to do too much and trying to get it 100% perfect.
Ah,
So, like in software, like one of the things people think they should do is plan everything out to the letter before you start. And what that means is you'll spend a year in planning. That's not unusual. A year in planning, after which time enough people have changed, markets have changed, technology has changed, that even if you were close, you're wrong. And then you're trying to please 100% of the people. I think the way to do software is different and in a way sort of counterintuitive to how we do a lot of other things in the world. But it's start with something that's 80% right and pleases 80% of the people 80% of the time. A lot of 80/20s in there. You'll get down to something that is, and crucially, finished. Like actually getting something out the door and then iterating on it is much more important than waiting too long. And we just sold a project recently where the sales cycle was 18 months and it should have been a couple weeks.
Really?
Being a little silly about it, but it's like definitely a problem, definitely an issue. But the thing was going to be, how do we get this change into the organization? And it took a really, really long time.
Huh.
And it's a bummer that, we know how much it costs them to not do it per quarter. And it's probably a $6 million wait.
Yeah. Yeah. Easy, I would think. Yeah. That's because if you're talking about something that's like been an 18-month, turnaround, that's obviously implying some sort of big dollar amount project.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And so as things are getting automated more and more, how do you suggest balancing the automation of things and maintaining the human touch, either with the interactions that you're having with your customers or that they're having with theirs?
Great questions. I think that the main thing about automation is, okay, so here's another thing that people get wrong. Only automate things that are a big deal. So recently we said we helped a client say no to something that was like, yeah, sure, that's inconvenient, but like it takes one person a half hour twice a month. It's fine. Just keep doing it manually. That's fine.
Sure.
When it's 80 people doing something differently 6-7 times a day, now we're talking about something worth doing. And so I feel like the key about balancing automation and sort of the human component is, remember that if you shoot for a goal, as in our industry, for example, if you shoot for a goal of eliminating the job of junior developer, well, first of all, I think that's a pretty hard ask, like a really, really long time. And then secondly, how do you ever get senior developers then? No, if no one ever had the entry level job, it's like, there's going to be no more law clerks. Okay, well, then how do you get lawyers? Like it's sort of a nonsensical when you think about like the longevity of like the business. And maybe there's a short-term thing and maybe I'm a cynic, but like when I see, companies laying off, 8,000 people because AI replaced something, I don't buy it. I think it's a great smokescreen for a bad quarter to blame it on AI. I don't think it's because they replaced jobs.
Yeah, I haven't thought of it that way before, and I think that there might be some validity to that. It would be interesting. It's so interesting to see how it's like all playing out. I'm a firm believer that the AI is creating more jobs than are kind of going away, sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, because if you think about it, like the way technology goes is it just in a way new jobs have to come out the other end. Because in a way, the trouble with progress is there's really no choice. Because if you choose to not do it and all your competitors choose to do it, you're going to be left in the dust. So it's incumbent on all of us to figure out what that next thing is. And there will always be some turbulence when that happens because right now it's really uncertain, right? We're trying to figure out in our business internally how to manage what do we do with AI to help developers be more valuable, because we've always had the threat of people going overseas or doing all these other things that were more cost advantageous. And here's yet another thing, and you find a way. And I think typically, if I'm honest, the answer is always better, higher value for what the people are doing. So like the argument for us with going cheaper overseas is like, well, wouldn't you rather have people who are dedicated to you personally and locally next to you who can provide higher level consulting as opposed to just do a task? So put all the tasks over there and give us the higher level stuff. I think you're always going up and to the right, I think, in moments like these. That's kind of, I think, the advice.
And what about when you've seen the AI or just some sort of system that is, we'll just call it revolutionary to a user? Something, they've hit something and there's been an unexpected change or setback because of it, right? What were some key lessons learned in overcoming that setback?
I think, if we go back to change management, I think the companies that are able to adapt quicker do better. So when I think of, I have a couple, so I told this story on a different podcast, but I have one client who just sold their business for over $1 billion. And one of the things that they did expertly well for the 7 or 8 years that it from startup to sale was And this is almost a cliche as soon as it comes out of my mouth, but they tried a bunch of things. Some of them worked. Almost most of them didn't, but they got in and out of them quickly. So they tried this thing, they stood it up, they put it in front of customers. It was lukewarm. Okay, let's try the next thing. And they just kept trying. And what they ended up doing in the end was reminiscent, had an echo of the original idea. Like maybe it was 82% the same, but they changed enough along the way to keep it viable. Whereas I feel like the companies that struggle, or the couple that we know that went out of business, took so long to make the perfect decision that the opportunity passed them by, and they just kept doing the same old thing, and slowly, like a slow, sad, decline, like not a bang but a whimper kind of ending.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. And so like as you've seen them kind of iterate on their original core thing, but then, switch it up a little bit. What about internally for you guys? You mentioned that you're implementing some systems and so forth. How have you been measuring success on what's working there as you implement things in your own business?
Well, so interestingly enough, so we were really like dove headfirst into AI forward stuff about 18 months ago, whenever that really started to get big. And I think our original proposition was wrong. And the original proposition was people will want help doing AI. And so we're like, well, what problems do you have that could get solved by AI? And what we learned was, I don't know if you found this in your business, but answer, everyone wants to try it themselves because it looks so easy and fun that they're going to try something on their own. And so we kind of pivoted up to, again, kind of thinking of this idea of going up and to the right. Okay, well, listen, you're going to do your experiments on your own. That's great. There's going to come a time when you're like, oh, wait, we're now stuck because, and could be any of these reasons, this app doesn't scale, it's not secure, the data is unreliable, it's fragile, all the things that come with building software. Well, you're not a software development company, you don't have the expertise in that. You've maybe used AI to experiment a little bit. In fact, one of our clients right now that we started engaging a long time ago finally came back to us because I've now learned they tried to do it without us with Copilot and it was a mess. But they figured out enough of the direction they want to go in to say, okay, here's what we want. Great. But I think the idea of we're going to help you with all of your AI initiatives was wrong. And if I'm honest, I think we pivoted too slowly and didn't drink our own medicine there. Could have gone faster. But I think what you want is as many inputs as possible so that you can judge how it's going. And I think we were a little slow, if I'm honest.
I see. So yeah, being able to hone in on what's working and continuing the success on those and going deep with them. Yeah, the real needle movers, I think it always comes back to ROI. And so when we're able to get a good piece of clarity around what that is, and sometimes there's some things that are a little bit harder to measure that are more intangible assets than actual dollar amounts.
Yeah.
But there's also always the way to translate that through $2, right? And like where every business is basically a math equation.
Yeah.
And so it's like if you're saving hours in those proposal generations or in the customer service, those couple different examples that you gave, like equating where that does transfer through to dollars or to hours saved is absolutely huge. And I agree that I think that like right now, so many people just have this, like for the people, especially the people that are like all for AI, right? Then like, they're like, oh, well, yeah, I'll just do it. I'll just, take it on. AI makes everything easy. And then it's like some things fail or they're not so good at it. Or a case example would be, I've tried it myself in AI UGC content creation. And it's like there's still an art and a skill to be able to, for example, put the right prompts together and do all of the behind the scenes so that when someone views it, they're not just saying, oh, that's AI, right? It's like the actual skill of getting it to that next degree is absolutely, it's a new skill that's being developed in the world today. But like the importance, again, going back to like, there's a huge failure rate. Some say 80, 85, 90% of AIs are failing these days, because of XYZ. And so it's like, well, are they failing because of the AI or are they failing because of something in the implementation and the user, right? And so it's like the classic, like, are you doing AI or are you doing AI well? And so is that internal with like each role? Are you helping each individual use AI in their business specifically and like assisting them in training? Are you starting a department? Right? Like years ago, there was no such thing as a CAIO. And in larger companies, they have that. And now in discussions, there's been some smaller companies that are fulfilling those sort of roles as well. And it's so new. It's such a new arena for people to really wrap their head around and to be able to use effectively, and to know that, like, it's the classic, like, remember when everyone was saying, oh, there's an app for that? It's like, well, there's an AI for that. And it's like, there certainly could be, but is that a good thing? Or is it just another shiny object? Is it just another time suck, distraction that isn't leading to any good productivity?
No, so that's we probably saw the same study. I think that MIT said like it was like 90-something%, right, or failing. And I actually think the reason is the same reason that we used to pitch for software and IT projects, which is Gartner did a study a long time ago. Something like 72% of IT projects fail. And the reason is, and I got this in interviewing for my book, was that most CIOs, like most C-level technology people, do not have a business outlook. They're mostly looking at like, what can we do? What's possible? What will it cost for us to buy these servers? But it's really, really rare for them to be like, here's the value that this department brings to the organization. And so if that's the technology people, imagine just giving. So I met someone recently who's the CEO of a big healthcare group, and I was talking about this, like what they're doing with AI, and he goes, I had this brilliant idea. I asked everyone in my company to bring me 3 ideas a week for what we can do with AI. Now sounds interesting, but it's a big company, like 10,000 plus people, and so 30,000 ideas a week is crazy. Yeah. And further, none of those people, hardly any of those people are business people. They're frontline people doing whatever it is, right? Now you just got this C, hardly any of which are about the business. They're like, well, I'm going to use an AI to automate this goofy part of my day that takes me 10 minutes. And it's like, no one's it's like the hammer and nail problem. You have to start with like, what's the problem we're solving? And then maybe it's AI. Maybe it's just process. Like most of the companies we run into, their main problem is they don't follow the process they say they have. So do that and you'll do better.
Yeah. Or even start with just creating a better SOP on its own.
Yes. It doesn't have to be AI. It doesn't have to be software. It could just be do the job.
Yeah. Or like you were mentioning before, like that person just swiping his template out. It's a template. Like, use it.
That blew my mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And so, tell us more about the book.
So the book is, it's a little old now. It's almost 5 years old. So the book was so I tried to write a book of my own, failed, hired an editor, and I said, hey, can you help me? I said, I had this idea. I wrote all these blogs. Can you turn these into a book? And so she read the blogs and she said, no. And so that's not a book. So she came up with this sort of book hack of let's interview 100 CIOs and we'll let the book sort of emerge. And what emerged was these like 7 core characteristics about the CIOs and companies that grew.
Mike, I'm sorry. Are you hearing that? It sounds like a phone is just ringing and ringing.
Oh, no.
Oh, you're not?
Is that me? Sorry.
There, now it's off.
Good. Okay.
Okay. Go on.
And so we interviewed about 100 people, and about 30 of them had these great stories of like openness and growth and bringing people in. And 70 of them had these stories of like, no, we went slow and everything went like, and you could tell like mindset was like the gateway idea of that we can do this. This is possible. And so that's why like a minority of companies are able to grow. And then there's a bunch of like ideas underneath that about like learning and, mentorship and all these other kind of factors that like a lot of CIOs don't pay attention to because they're so focused on the technology. And it's really, really clear what caused the company to grow. And it's in mindset, like having a growth mindset, like things can change, things can be different is the most important idea you can have in your head.
Fantastic. And is that book out on Audible as well? Like, where can people find it?
It's not on Audible yet. I should do that.
Not on Audible. Okay.
I was going to shoot for that this Christmas. I don't know if I'll make it, but it is on Amazon. Okay. It's on Amazon. So we can include a link if you want to.
Yeah. Please do. I love it. I love promoting, whatever my guests have. And how about looking forward as we are winding up 2025, right? Hard to believe. What sort of trends in the AI space do you see as coming around beginning of 26? So
there's this idea I love called the Gartner hype curve. Have you ever seen this? So Gartner is this idea that like when a new technology comes on board, that takes a while to catch on, there's adopters, and then it spikes, right? And then after spikes, there's I think they call it like the crest of disillusionment or something. And then it comes back up to like a middle level. I think we're going to see some pushback on a lot of articles about how AI is overblown and all this other kind of stuff because of what we just talked about. And that's going to happen over the next 6 months. And then it's going to come back up and people go, actually, you know what? Here are these things that are really, really great about it. And so all of us in this space I think are going to have to power forward with the idea that like there's a lot of value there. Stop trying to put AI in everything. It's almost like when we tried to put blockchain in everything 5 years ago.
Right.
It's solve problems first and it's going to be okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it's basically tapping into just the idea of acceptance of adoption, and how will it kind of filter through to being really relevant in important areas in our lives, and then we're just able to focus once again on those things and not be distracted. And so, what about the interaction of humans and AI workers? I saw just over last week, I believe, gosh, I forgot the company, but something like 50,000 humanoid robots were shipped over to China, right, to use in like BYD factories and a few others. So that's obviously a clear example of where there's the interaction of human and AI working, right? And then so that's in the physical realm. And then there's, the virtual realm of AI agents, whether it's like taking the customer service phone call or assisting with workflows or what have you, right? But what do you see that space of collaboration between humans and non-humans looking like?
I think the robotics is a really interesting area that, frankly, I don't know a ton about. I'm more in like the digital only space, but I think that you're right. I think the same idea applies, and that it's there's always going to be an appetite to bring some sort of, whether it's automation or robot or mechanical something, into an area that is really like the humans do inefficiently, right? So like there's a reason why there's a grain harvester, because it takes a long time to go out there in the field and get all the corn. And so like I think this is the evolution of that. I think that trend is kind of unstoppable because it's a competitive advantage. And so it's up to the world to figure out like what's the next thing we need people involved in. I think the trend towards services in the US is probably a good indication of where the rest of the world might end up. But that's
what sort of services? What do you mean?
Just
there?
like, so like I think the general shift out of, as we lost manufacturing jobs was into more like, financial services and, consulting. And, I think Accenture has the most employees of any company in the world, and like stuff like that, where it's like, we're moving toward where humans deliver value as opposed to, if you're like, I saw this thing the other day about those machines that are able to, as apples are going by, it's able to whack the bad apples out like really, really fast. Like that's not something a human should be doing. That's great. Get the apple whapper over there. That's perfect. But when it comes time to like, well, how do we market these apples and what's the best way to grow them? And how do we, what other uses for apples are there? That's a human. I'm making this up on the fly, obviously. But like that sort of thing, I think it's in that sort of direction. And again, there will always be an appetite for it, because really those are jobs that people don't want. I think if given a choice, like they'll do them if they have to, and they got to raise them and support their families. But if I could think as opposed to pull weeds out of the ground, I'd probably choose thinking.
Yep, 100%. And what are you doing to speak to the younger generation? You mentioned, I think in the intro, I mentioned on your behalf that you've got a couple kids, couple football players, right? I've been in contact with people both in the education space itself, higher ed, and then also kind of adjacent industries. And so what's your take or suggestions or any aha moments that you might give to the graduating class or those that just graduated college, right, in regards to kind of where tech is going?
So I love that. So we do a good amount of events with some universities and kids like that. And our interns have been some of our greatest hires and people that brought great new ideas into the company. And one of the things I found really stark and interesting was specifically around computer science. There are a couple of big universities we've worked with where one university is sort of open to the idea that like kids are doing their homework with ChatGPT, and they're sort of they're trying to embed it into the curriculum, but really as we talk to the kids, what we're finding out is like for sure they're copying pasting into the thing, and they don't know how to do it, right? Whereas the other university has really emphasized like this is like, we want you to make sure you understand how this works, and the difference in the interns has been really striking. So like it's a job for developing software. If you don't know what you're doing, so here's a warning to people who are playing with AI and coding. AI will get you only so far. and then it's going to get stuck. And if you don't know how to break through that dam, there's really nothing you can do. And if you've ever tried to vibe code something, there's always a spot where you just get into this circle where you can't get out of it. So like, I feel like if you're interested in this field, there's lots of growth left. There's lots of growth left because AI will only take us so far, and you have to learn how it really works. And the other one is if there's one thing that we've had to let younger people go for in the company, it's sort of a lack of recognition of what it means to be at a job. So we're like that sounds like I'm a super old school dude, but like just the ability to like show up and provide effort and like really like care about what you're doing isn't everyone. And I'm not saying it's like a generation thing, because like there's a whole famous quote about like every generation thinks the one coming up is going to end the world, and it never does, right?
Right.
But the burden for this one is it's a super challenging job market, and really your ability to just try, which is completely in your control, really, really stands out. Because we've had some people just like they just weren't trying, and it's like super smart. Not trying does not work in any company anywhere at any time.
No, yeah. It's the whole thing of like showing up is half of it.
Yeah.
And it could be said that it's even more than half, especially with the fact that like, yeah, if you're showing up with serious intent and then you're putting the the AI behind you in whatever it is, then success is inevitable. Like it's just, I feel like it's a given.
Yeah.
And so
I love
so
that
much
idea that you make
opportunity.
your luck, like the idea that, the more you
Yeah.
try, the more you kind of create that you're going to be quote unquote lucky because you gave yourself so many opportunities.
Yeah. It's like, going back to hockey for me, it's like, it's a goal scorer's goal. It's because they were in the right spot, So what if it bounced off their shin pad or,
Still counts.
it like happened to fly up and over the goalie's head or something? It's like they were there. They were, literally showing up, and up go their stats, and the
Yeah.
fans go home cheering. Yeah. Oh, this has been great, Mike. I really appreciate your time. Is there
Yeah.
anything that you'd like to add as we land the plane, as they say?
If people are interested in connecting, you can find me on LinkedIn, or the company is caxy.com, CAXY.com. We'd love to have conversations about how to make your business smarter, better, and faster.
Great. And your podcast is what?
The Digital Transformist, which I focus on the YouTube channel. So the Digital Transformist on YouTube is where I put all of our stuff and clips. So you don't have to watch the whole thing. You watch the little pithy sound bites.
Yeah. I love the clips. Fantastic. Okay. Well, speaking of, stick around here for just a couple minutes so this will upload. But Mike, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. This has been great.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark.
All right. Thank you.